Hello, friends. We're here with Coast to Coast Central. I'm your host, Tyler Angers. We'll be sitting down with the big boss from upstairs, Vin Robinson. We'll be talking about lots of things, including inclusion and other civic and social topics. He's very clearly a deep thinker with lots of experience, so we'll get to pick his brain for a little bit. And then after that, we'll look at the future. We've got lots of big things planned around here, trying to bring us together as a community, make sure that everyone feels that they have a chance to share the human element with each other. So without further ado, we'll get into it. Again, I'm Tyler Angers. This is Coast to Coast Central. Hello, my name is Tyler Angers, here with Coast to Coast Central, taking a dive in today, looking at one of our people we know very well here. We're sitting down with Vin Robinson, host of Coast to Coast Central. We're here to ask him a few questions just about, taking a dive into what he values, finding out what's important for him, kind of what makes him tick here. So Vin, in our society, it's really important, obviously, to be inclusive, make sure everyone feels valued. Obviously, in Canada, we live in a melting pot, lots of diverse cultures in our society. So it's very important to be respectful. Everyone knows that. But why is it so important to you that you kind of went out of your way to start this business and go on this enterprise to make sure that that is represented?
Well, Ty, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's been a long time, and I'd like to just say it's for opportunity. When opportunity knocks, it gives opportunity for things to change, and change is very important in our society. I'm a long-time Winnipegger, and there's been a lot of things that have changed over 30 years, and some for the good and some not so good. But I think what we need to do is take some of the great experiences that we have in the past and focus on them so that we know where we have to go. So that's why these programs, this business has gotten started, is to create opportunity and inclusiveness for people in our community.
In your opinion, what is the most challenging aspect of working in a diverse environment that might not always be the most inclusive?
Well, that's a good question. A number of years, there was not as many newcomers to Winnipeg as we have now. So there wasn't as many different communities or smaller cliques that would kind of mesh together. And with having these newcomers come in, it would be great to have an opportunity to bring them all together in an inclusive way instead of just based on their cultures. So I think that by developing space, creating opportunity, a meeting point for people to get together is a very important thing to have happen. And once again, another reason that is the method behind the madness.
Yeah, because it's obviously important for people to feel, accepted in their own cultures, and obviously having, say like, different cultures represented here in our society, but it's also important for everyone to come together as a whole, kind of, and all feel, represented together, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So given that there is, more influx of people with diverse backgrounds and more opportunities to work with them, obviously we're still trying to make that opportunities increase. What is your approach to understanding the perspectives of colleagues with diverse backgrounds?
Well, I learned a long time ago that the table is always round. So it's not about having a square table or a rectangle table. When people sit down, everybody has an opinion. And God gave us 2 ears to listen and 1 mouth to speak. And, sometimes the tongue says things that we're really not supposed to, so we're supposed to listen. And to understand the diverse cultures that we have, I'll give an example. Running a basketball program, you have to take into account that different religion. And if you have some religions that might not eat pork, for example, you have to be aware of that. So being aware will position yourself so that you're offering a nourishment or a product for people that everybody can enjoy and be inclusive of. So I think it's just being aware of The fact that we're in Canada, it's a great place to be. I don't really know too many other countries in the world that you could go to and get It's a Small World all in one,
Yeah, for sure.
right? And I think that that's what makes Canada so unique. So that's what helps me kind of focus is I like to extend a little bit further back and say, okay, it began with Pangea. We all split off. It's a long time ago, but we split off into these different countries, and we need to try to understand each other to know where we have to go moving forward.
And know that really, going back all that way, like we really are just like one species, one society. We might like look different and have different aspects of our culture, but really that's like kind of what makes us special, that somebody from a different part of the world who might have like a different ancestry, they, might value things differently than we might value things here, and just understanding that and knowing like how to be respectful towards people for the different things they might value, and just understanding it's a positive thing really that we have differences in ourselves, in different parts of the world, right? It's really what makes people great. So yeah, really just understanding that's very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We need to take that time and understand, because if we don't, there's never going to be progress.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like we've kind of gotten to where we are as a species, everyone's kind of separate, especially when you consider like hundreds of years ago where you have like countries going to war with each other and like trying, instead of the whole, world just working together to build ourselves up really. So obviously all that stuff is very, very important, but obviously there could be times where it might not be all so peachy. So if there is a situation where someone maybe is insensitive, whether culturally, racially, religious-wise, how do you go about dealing with that?
In a business environment?
Let's start with a business environment, and then we can maybe move off that if we have time.
In a business environment, I think it depends on the instance and how it's being reported and how it's being investigated. Sometimes we're very swift to act and hurt people in ways that we really shouldn't, because we just didn't understand the road that they had to walk to get to where they are. So I think that that's important. So it really depends on what the level of, the problem that we're discussing.
Yeah, I think it's more of on like a subtle kind of basis, because obviously if something was so like egregious, it was just,
they would be dismissed.
Right, it would just be something that would be, you'd handle that obviously in certain ways. But if it was something that was maybe more subtle, maybe the person didn't quite understand, it's not something that they were consciously trying to be insensitive about. It's maybe just some lack of knowledge on their part or something that might have resulted in kind of a misunderstanding to say.
That's right, yeah. And that's just it. That's what I believe is that, that's why I started, with saying that the table's round, because a lot of the times it's just misperception. A lot of problems in the world could be mediated, where, you just sit down and have the different parties talk amongst each other and figure out a better way that works for everybody. So that's important. We really need to take the time to slow down the pace and understand that the world is moving extremely fast. You're noticing it with technology, where you might go to a store and now instead of having somebody personable, a human element that you could talk to, it's all automated. And I think we kind of, we're talking about some of the good things and the bad things that we've gotten away from. Well, I think not employing people and giving them jobs and saying, you know what, you're a human being and I want to ask you how your day is going while you're checking my stuff out. That's important.
And so how would you advocate for diversity in a colleague who maybe doesn't quite understand its importance, or maybe just isn't educated on the matter?
Through my experience, I've realized that operations manuals are extremely important. Anti-harassment policies are extremely important. You have to set these guidelines in place. Without structure, it's organized chaos and you're just asking for problems. So you need structure.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, because I think lots of times it is just kind of a lack of understanding. You can't know something unless you've been taught it. So for a lot, like I know myself, I had parents who were really good at teaching me kind of, to be accepting of others and kind of not, mind your own business, let other people kind of do what they want to do. You're allowed to believe it. But some people didn't really have that guidance growing up. So lots of times it can be just not really like an ignorance, but just a lack of knowledge. You know, how would you know something if you're not taught it, right? So even though it can be something, you know, when you're just talking about being inclusive of others, it is something that, you know, can kind of seem obvious to us at times, but, you know, really for some people it might not be quite as obvious.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, we've been going off on this as co-host of this show. I don't want to take away from what you're doing. I think we should go to a commercial break and then come back and get on our next topic. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so. I think I got a little carried away there with the car. I got a little excited there. So we'll take a quick break here. We'll come back and then we'll keep that excitement going.
All right, we'll be right back.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Michelle, aka Big Mama, and this is Big Mama's House of Pain.
All right, we're back here with Coast to Coast Central. Again, we're talking here with my man Vin Robinson, taking a deep dive into, you know, some sociological problems here, taking a deep look into the mind of the human. So tell me, Vin, about a time when you've advocated for diversity and inclusion in the workplace. I know you're a successful man. You've been around for a while, been a businessman for a number of years now. You must have a couple stories you're sifting through in your head there.
I do. I really do. But I think the most impact comes from the body of work that we're doing right now. I think when you get involved in business, you never want to get involved in politics. I think that that's not what the calling is. I think that if you're in restaurant, you want to serve product. If you are in cars, you want to sell cars. But I think that at some point in time, there's a calling, and you start to figure out exactly what your calling is because the community demands that calling of you, right? They tell you what they need, and you figure out those gaps in between. So I think the power of what Coast to Coast Sports has is that we have knocked at the door at the top of the hill. We've been to Ottawa and back. We've sat with Black Caucus. We have taken opportunity to have dialogue with CRTC and different groups, expressing the fact that we feel that BIPOC is not represented heavily enough in this country, that there's groups in our country that need support. Now, what we get is a placebo. We don't get anything that is generational. And I think that what we need is an exit strategy. You know, we'll take a look at, say, young youth that are coming out of high school without any direction. And I mean, kids don't really know, you know, at that age, you know, I want to go to school, people are telling me to go to school, but also the education spectrum has changed over a number of years where you might just be better off going and get a trade and you're in it. And you're better off. So, I mean, the scales have kind of changed, and I think that it's important for us to take a look at what we're doing these days, how the ripple effect is affecting each other.
To try to help the future generations have more opportunity to try to break the cycle and make it more even playing field for everyone.
That's just it.
Yeah.
You noticed, you know, during the pandemic, as an example, the worst thing that happened was everybody was separate. When you can't have dialogue, see tone or see expression, hear tone, these are things that are crucial to conversation. So how do you get that through a device?
That human element's not there.
Right, you can't get that. So I feel that there's a disconnect in the world. And the one thing that perhaps our governments don't want to see is a way for us to gather, a way for us to share dialogue. I don't want to get too religious here, but, we would even say that in the Bible, we had all of these different ethnic diversities, backgrounds. They couldn't speak to each other. So what was the one language that everybody had that they can communicate with? Body language. So when you want to build something, you could figure things out. You could still have ways to communicate. And I think that rather than trying to wedge ways to communicate, we need to fuel more ways to communicate by offering location, space, a meeting point, a muster point, if you will.
Yeah. So now that you're starting to own your own business, you have lots of people who are kind of working for you, relying on you to a certain degree. How do you help foster a sense of belonging and inclusiveness with your employees?
Not to micromanage. That's very important because everybody has a creative process. And I feel that if you micromanage, it can actually curb somebody's ability, make them anxious, not want to phoenix and grow into who they're supposed to be. So it was very important for me to understand at a young age that you have to fuel that, you have to take the time to see what the diamond in the rough is with every single person, because every single person was born with a gift and you have to harness that gift. And then the thing is that you have to bring those people together with other people to make that gift work. So I mean, the journey has been interesting. The journey has been fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. I think that it's much more fruitful to wake up in the morning and invest in self. Find, even if you work for somebody else, find 5 minutes in the day out of a 8-hour day that you'd be at work and do something that will help propel you personally further in your life goals. That's very important.
Yeah, and speaking personally, he's a bit too lenient sometimes. So just I know that personally. So I think we'll give him a little break here. We'll go to commercial again. We'll come back. We have one more question from our guy Vin, and then we'll ask him what he's a busy guy. We'll ask him what he's got going on in the future. So stay with us.
My name is Michelle, aka Big Mama, and this is Big Mama's House of Pain.
And we're back here with Coast to Coast Central. Again, I'm still your host, Tyler Ranger. We're still here with my man, Vin Robinson. Here we got one more question for you, Vin. So obviously, eliminating biases is a very important thing. Obviously, we all have our biases within us, but how do you work to eliminate bias from the hiring process? Obviously, in an organization like this, it's very important for you. So how is that process for you?
Well, orientation, each one teach one, is very important because I find that it's a lot of referral that's coming in. The type of space that we're in is a little bit unique in broadcast, podcast. Not everybody wants to be on the front of the lens, and it's even the people that are in the trenches that make this thing go. So, once again, in that hiring process, it's understanding the strengths that everybody has and their weaknesses. But I look at it like the physique. If you go to the gym and you have pecs and biceps and triceps already, your legs might be weak. So why don't you work out on your legs instead of touching your upper body? And that's what I think we need to do, is start to focus on our weak points, because we don't want to face them. It's almost like our nemesis. It's our fear. We don't want to face it.
Yeah.
But if you face your fear, it's the one thing that people hold over you. If there's no fear, what do you have to worry about in life? Nobody holds power over you,
Yeah.
right? And I think that that is a day that we all long for, is the day that we're all free.
Well said, Vin. Well said. Okay, well, that's most of the questions I have for you. One more though. We got what's Vin doing in the future here? What's anything you're really excited here? Really want to talk about here in these last couple minutes?
Yeah, well, we got a bit of a postscript here, so let's put it out there. Inclusion. We can't become inclusive unless we have a gathering spot. So this summer, coming Canada Day, long weekend, follow us on Coast to Coast Sports, because we're going to be putting out something in Winnipeg like it hasn't been out there in a very long time. It's going to be a meeting place where all of us can get together, enjoy good meals, good people, good times, and create great memories. So that's the first thing that I'm looking forward to. And then a little fast forward, zoom into the fall, is you've noticed that in Winnipeg, on a civic note, it's very difficult to find gymnasiums and places to play. And we're curbed by that. We're on the semi-professional level, and we're having to play out of these jank gymnasiums in Winnipeg. That hurts, because we're all born in the image of God's children. And by saying that, how can you turn your back on people that really need you?
How can some people get stuff and others don't? Yeah.
So this is the calling. Like I said, I'm not asking to sit in this chair. Somebody is pushing me here, and this is my calling. So all I'm going to do is ride the wave, enjoy the ride, not get stressed out about it. If I knock at some doors and people don't want to hear what we're talking about, I go the other direction. But there's much more people that support our position, and I think that that's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, and if you're gonna sit in a chair, might as well
be one of
might
these.
as well be one of these ones. Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna have a way that you can come and sit in this chair this summer. So once again, make sure to check us out. And this is Vin Robinson signing off with Tyler
Ranger.
There you
I
go.
know the last name's hard to pronounce, so I'll save you that one, Vin. Thank you so much. This is Coast to Coast Central. Can't wait to see you guys again.
Catch you next time.